I was listening a lot to everything that was said today, and I would frame it in total as one a very key expression that I heard, which was if if you want to recuperate, you cannot lag behind in a lagging situation. And I think that's the case and the way we should look at Romania's evolution. But let's start with the good things. As was stated before, we've got a median growth of around 3.6% over the last 10 years, which is much better than most regional countries in this area. The only outlier being Poland with 3.7%, the rest are under 3%. So Romania does look good in this aspect. There is a certain price to this when we look at the export deficit and the way this is affecting our economy. So there is a price being paid there through deficits, both from a spending perspective and also from a commercial balance perspective. But still there's growth. And I think that this is the context in which we should look at Romania in the present and in the future, but also understand that when you're ahead, your main concern should be how to stay ahead, because progress is not a linear process. So then I'd go over to the risks that we see. Growth is projected at a sub 1% rate by some institutions for this year. So this should hopefully be just a hiccup in this median, because 3.6% is good, but then again, we are the ones coming from behind and trying to close that gap. So our rhythm of growth should consistently be higher than other countries to really be an emerging economy at some point. Secondly, we have to take into account foreign trade and how that influences us. Main partner of Romania today is still Germany. So the way that the German economy is going to work is going to directly affect Romania as a whole and businesses specifically. This also given the fact that we have a lot of businesses in Romania that meet strong problems when they are fully dependent maybe on one or two clients from the German industrial area. So that means that even a partial reduction in production in that area can mean a total closure in the plants that we have over here. We've seen this in our restructuring business last year. A couple of companies just going from a stable situation to net zero just by losing the main client. So this dependence needs to be treated not just in the relationship with Germany, but in general relations between companies in Romania and other markets. These aspects can be viewed in two ways. One, it's the granularity of companies in Romania, which need to get bigger to be able to access economies of scale and also not be so dependent on their clients that they come to a point where just one single economic decision by another party can terminate a maybe 20-year-old business. The other thing that I see in the risk sector is inflation, which is still high in Romania and one of the highest in Europe. We need to take that into consideration both in the way we project things, but also in the way that we address our economy. We've seen a reduction and we've seen the efforts in this sense, but still, statistically speaking, we are at the lower end of the EU. But it's not all negative. I think that one of the main positive aspects was mentioned before. It is Schengen and also OECD. I think that the way Romania is seen by investors and economies is very important. That's why also I think that addressing the aspect of ratings is something that has to be taken into consideration. I think that the relationship between these ratings and deficits and also the way we plan our economy and execute on that is very important. And this takes me to the next point. We have seen quite an important deficit last year. We have already a high deficit in plan for this year and also a certain intention to reduce it. So if we look at this from the way we perceive the future of our economy, we should look at how this is going to happen. Probably, in our opinion, not as much from the cost side, but from the revenue side. So that means that we might see some impact on fiscal measures. But from this table, there are people who most certainly know better than me about these aspects. The last point I would make and then go over to my conclusion, is labor. Labor is both positive as in the negative aspect that we need to take into account. We have low unemployment, but that also means that we have areas where employing the right kind of people is hard, and also pressure on employment costs. There are estimates that say that just this year we need to import, let's say, over 100,000 foreign workers out of the European Union in order to be able to answer to the needs of manufacturing and other areas where we have a deficit in employment. All these being said, I would conclude that there are two main aspects that we need to constantly be monitoring and, if possible, incentivize in order to keep up with growth and address these problems. First one is performance, core performance of companies. We are still at a very high level of lacking either financial or core performance. 25% of companies, big companies in Romania, don't produce profits. Also, 1/3 of them have at least one financial disbalance that should be treated in order to regain a level situation. Second is financing. The way we are able to fuel growth and the way we are able to fuel the economy is very important. Right now, we are in a process of trying to catch up with more complex systems that address financial needs. This means having a more broader sense of where monies come from. So it's not just the backbone that has been for the last 20 years, which is the banking sector here present, but we are also talking about financial markets like the stock exchange. We are talking about direct investments that were mentioned before. I just like to add that sadly we have seen a reduction in FDI in 24 as of 23 of we've reached, I think, 5.7 billion as opposed to 6.8. Percentage of the GDP is still low at 1.6. Also, if we talk about direct investments from private equity as funds, we do not have very clear data as not all transactions are being tracked. But percentage speaking, we have much lower levels than Europe as a whole, Western Europe specifically, but even other areas of CEE. And to conclude, in order to access this private equity, which is, in our opinion, very important to address both distressed situations, where our main concern is as a restructuring company, but also growth, you need to incentivize the way that people funnel money to those areas. There is capital in Romania, both from pension funds, insurers, and a lot of other sources. But the way policy drives this kind of financing to go into private equity investments can ensure a competitive advantage for Romania and address these opportunities that were mentioned before, because any growth needs capital, and that capital needs to understand this context to be able to come towards us at a higher rate. Thank you.